Good evening. Thank you all for coming out. Welcome to the beautiful campus of NYU DC. My name is Broderick Johnson, and I am the producer of the March on Washington Film Festival. This legacy festival was created to tell the unknown stories of the civil rights movement and to uplift the stories from the era by featuring films, documentaries, spoken word, and musical performances. Our goal is to educate and celebrate this powerful history and continue to inspire future leaders who are passionate about making a better place for all by challenging social inequality. Tonight, we are honored to screen this incredible documentary, While I Breathe, I Hope, which takes viewers on an intimate journey from Bakari Sellers' 2014 campaign in his home state of South Carolina to the devastation of the 2015 Charleston shooting and his renewed commitment to helping heal a fractured nation. In 2017, the festival were joined by Bakari's father, Dr. Cleveland Sellers, who during the movement was shot and imprisoned for protesting segregation in what became the 1968 Orangeburg Massacre at South Carolina State University. The fight for justice and racial equality is in the Sellers' DNA, and we can't thank you enough, Bakari, for allowing us to showcase this film to our audience tonight. Following the screening, we'll be joined by CNN's Symone Sanders, who will have a dialogue with Bakari on the future of U.S. politics. Symone, thank you so much for your leadership. You are true to the culture. You are a spokesperson for the culture, and we love you and we thank you. Seriously. I'd also like to thank the producers of this film, Emily Harrold and Diane Robertson, Let America Vote, Senior Policy Advisor Jorge Tornado, and NYU DC staff, Tom and Polly. Thank you for the incredible partnership. We truly appreciate you all. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Emily Harrold, who's going to tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind the film. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone, for coming. This is really exciting. It's hard to believe we're in DC and we're going to watch this movie. Just want to say thank you to March on Washington Film Festival and NYU DC for hosting this. It really has been exciting to start showcasing the film. We started in New Orleans last fall, and we are playing on PBS now, and we are going across the country showing the film. I also wanted to recognize some of the team members of the film that are here in the audience. Diane Robertson, who is one of the producers of the film. And Jag Canty, who's one of the executive producers of the film. And also in the audience is one of the 2014, or two, I just walked in, part of the campaign staff for Bakari's 2014 campaign. Stephen and Lionel are both here. So really excited for everyone to see the film, really excited for the discussion afterwards. Thanks so much.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here, and thanks to Emily, Broderick, Bakari, and the whole team on allowing me a few minutes to speak. So my name is Jorge Tornado. I'm Senior Policy Advisor at Let America Vote, which is a voting rights organization that was founded a few years ago by Jason Kander, the former Missouri Secretary of State. So right now, voting rights issues obviously are something that happens in the court of law, but we're trying to bring it to the court of public opinion as well and make voting rights an issue that voters think about, care about, and vote on. And so, we're trying to create political consequences for elected officials across the country who are suppressing the vote by retiring them and replacing them with, voting rights champions instead. So when we started 2 years ago, we opened up a field office in Virginia and worked on a number of races there and had some great success in flipping some seats. And so that led to us expanding in 2018, where we opened up 5 field offices in Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, Georgia, and Tennessee, where we flipped 51 seats and held 49 seats. And so, we're taking that success and expanding even further this cycle, and going into 2020 to a number of other different states. And one of the other things that we're doing in our expansion is continuing a program that we started last year called Cap Gown Vote. And Cap Gown Vote is our high school voter registration initiative. Young people are more active than they've ever been before in politics, and we need to tap into that energy and make sure that we continue to keep it, growing it. Studies show that when you start voting early, it's more likely that you're going to get in the habit and be civically engaged, politically active, and so that's the purpose of this program. So last year we partnered with mayors in 15 cities across the country, and we're looking to get more cities, more mayors engaged. And so where you all come in and how we can use your help. You don't have to be a high school student to be involved. It helps. So if you know high school students, let them know about Cap Gown Vote. Try and get them involved. They can become student ambassadors and engage and register their peers to vote, as they turn 18, or pre-registration in some states. Use your own network, social media, your own friend groups. Talk to them about the initiative. Talk to them about Cap Gown Vote. Or even hold your own voter registration events. So there's a lot that can be done, even if you're not a high school student, and we'll appreciate all the support that you all can give in helping spread the word on this important initiative. So I think everybody's got one of these postcards here, and on the back you'll see that if you text Youth Vote to 44939, you'll be able to learn more information about the initiative, and you can also check out capgownvote.org. Thanks, and with that, I look forward to watching the documentary.
Let's give another round of applause. Get the applause going, everybody. Bakari Sellers, I think, is going to come down these stairs. All right, everybody. They're going to bring the screen up after they run through all the credits. Wasn't that documentary so good? Give another round of applause for Bakari. We were just having a conversation about Bakari has to go pre-tape. And I was like, I told him I couldn't pre-tape because I was going to be busy till about 9:15. But Bakari will be pre-taping, so he'll be running out after this event. I will not.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you.
You good?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thought that was amazing. While I breathe, I hope. So that was my first time seeing the documentary. I thought it was really, really good. I want to talk about, one, your decision to chronicle your journey of running for lieutenant governor. Why did you think that was important? And two, why did you decide to run for lieutenant governor? Because there were so many people, okay, that was like, what's he doing?
Well,
tell us. Come on.
So first of all, let me just say thank you for everyone who came out tonight, because you could have been anywhere in the world, and so it's pretty cool to see friends and family. And all of you all that I just met for the first time, a lot of the old civil rights heroes who are here, the producers, the Cantys and Diane and everyone, S to you, little man, not to your parents, but to you. There you go. And friends from work, Symone and Nia, good friends like Don and Jennifer and Sean in the back, and some old campaign staffers. And there's just so many people I want to thank for showing up. Yeah, I didn't really want to do this, to be completely honest. When Emily reached out, we were all very hesitant about letting someone inside your campaign.
I mean, the press secretary and me was like, who?
Yeah, trust me. I had the final vote on it, but it was something that you're very hesitant to do. I mean, you see scenes in there that, you see how the sausage is made. You see the ups and downs. You see the highs and lows, the pluses and minuses. The reason I did it was because I believed in Emily, and I always tell people that that's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, was believing in Emily Harrold. She came to me with an idea, and I'm not sure I would have let a random white girl from Orangeburg do it, but Emily's mother actually taught me in school, and so it was a connection there, and I said, let's do it. And I firmly believe now that there are going to be a lot of people in their political careers who move from writing memoirs, although we are doing that now to be out in the first quarter next year. Random side plug, but
plug. I know you're a book agent, so I know it's gonna be good.
I got a good agent. So yeah, and you'll see more documentaries on people's stories, just because you can watch 72 minutes and kind of see what people are about. Why lieutenant governor? Because something is wrong with all of us who run for office. That was way too many uh-huhs in the audience. You have to have a heavy dose of psychopathy to believe that you can go out and lead other people. And I really thought I was going to win, and I really thought we were going to make history. I do have to add one little footnote that although I didn't make history, Tim Scott did make history in that election. And although I was that's one clap. There you go. That's Jennifer clapping, everybody. But there is he did make history, so we do have the first African-American elected statewide since Reconstruction, and I'm proud of that. But I also say, with some Bakari Sellers humility, that I was able to chip away at those glass ceilings, and Stacy and Andrew since then have chipped away even more. But we haven't broken it yet.
No, we haven't. We haven't broken the glass ceiling yet, and I think we'll talk about a little bit about that in a little bit in a second. But I think what this documentary does, though, is it tells such a powerful story that I think a number of not only candidates but operatives and just people across the country can relate to. But who knew in the course of that campaign, you all standing in front of the State House saying the flag should come down, Nikki Haley and everybody else rebuffing and refuting you, to fast forward 2015, Nikki Haley talking about it should never have been there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it is.
Well, I mean, so there along the way, you have to have acts of courage, and you have to know. And part of that was me being in the political game for 10 years or 8 years before I ran for office, because you have to know what you stand for. And I was, like I said, I was very comfortable. If that may have played a role. There were people who were pissed off. There were Democrats who were mad at us.
Oh, I know.
Democrats were like, I cannot believe that you were bringing back up this issue. People are going to be so angry and coming to the polls in droves, which may slightly have been true, but we felt really good about where we were. I do think that Nikki does deserve some credit, though, because although Nikki Haley,
they're laughing because I made this face.
I know. I didn't even want to look at
face
you.
I made.
That's why I like being on
Bakari.
TV in boxes, so I don't have to see your facial expression. But the reason being is because although no politician is the reason, my friend Tim, Lindsay, Nikki are not the reason or any of the members of the General Assembly are not the reason the flag came down. The flag came down because 9 people were murdered. And that has to be remembered, that their blood is the reason that flag came down. However, you have to applaud them because it still took political courage to do it. Because, to be completely honest, me and my father had a full conversation in Charleston. We never believed that even during my lifetime the Confederate flag was going to come down from South Carolina. And so I just applaud everyone because it was, 60 years past due.
60 years past due. I mean, it's one could argue the political climate. I mean, there's so many things that have happened since this documentary. Okay, even since you finished making it, so many stuff that's happened this week. So much stuff that's happened today since we've been sitting up in here.
The documentary was only supposed to be about my race for lieutenant governor, and that's how documentaries go. And so the race was over, and we were filling in spots and doing some editing, and then Charleston happened. And after Charleston happened, I have this extremely high moment of speaking at the DNC on Thursday, which is a good day.
That's the best day. Just for folks that don't know.
Yeah, that's the best day.
That's the day you want.
That's the day that Secretary
You don't want to be on Monday.
Yeah. Did they let you in as Bernie Sanders? Did they even let you in the building?
First of all, I was a consultant for convention. I had a badge.
I don't even know if they let some of y'all in, but no. But we went from that high to Donald Trump being job security for us both, and being president of the United States. And so, it's amazing how life is. And so this documentary is always something, and people always ask me, they say, you show everything. Well, one, I'm not an editor of the documentary, and you have to know that you give up everything. You don't have, that's part of the reason my campaign was very hesitant. We don't have any, no editorial rights. There was nothing I could say, take that out or look at me from this angle. But it's refreshing because it's my truth. And I think anyone who knows me knows that when you get Bakari Sellers, if you get nothing else, you will get the truth, for better or worse.
You will get the truth. You will get the truth. We could clap for the truth. I mean, yes, the documentary shows everything. And again, the press secretary of me is like, oh my gosh, I hope all the people don't want to start doing documentaries every time they run for office. But I think it's important for folks to understand what goes into running for office. Because I know people ask you all the time, when are you going to run again? What are you going to do? And I do not think folks understand just the weight and the pressure that is put on the person that decides to sign up to put their name on the ballot.
Well, I always ask people, young people especially, and now, I mean, it's everybody. Everybody's thinking about it now. They say, talk to me and give me some advice about running for president. And the advice I give everyone is this, president, running for office, and the advice is the same. I say, have you ever met anyone who's halfway pregnant? And the answer to that is no. Either you are or you're not. And that's the way politics is. Either you're going to be all the way in or you're not going to get in it at all. It has to be all-consuming. It takes all of your being, all of you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. It takes your family in with you as well. everyone has to be prepared to do battle. And so when you think about all of those things, it's extremely tough, but it's so very rewarding. And the best thing that I did was retire at the age of, I got put into retirement, but still.
I was
because
like, I saw the doc.
Yeah, I lost. So I got put into retirement. But I now realize, I look back and realize that I wasn't nearly as important as I thought I was. And I'm able to look at the world a little differently. And I'm able to.
What have you learned? What have you learned?
I mean, I've learned so much about people. And I've learned more about meeting people where they are. And I've learned that there's so many voices. And just this one small thing. I used to believe that I was giving a voice to the voiceless. And that was somewhat condescending, although I thought it was an uplifting piece of rhetoric, because there's so many people who have been yelling and screaming for so long, but they've just been unheard. They haven't been voiceless, but they've just simply been unheard. And so now I do a better job of listening and uplifting those voices. With Clem's death, it gives me a passion to speak for him. I maintain friendships. That's the most important thing. Now, I haven't spoken to Henry McMaster since the day that he won that lieutenant governor's race. But everyone else that you saw in that film, we've maintained those friendships, and I think that's very valuable. I have a family now. I look at things differently.
You just had twins?
I just had twins, Sadie and
Shout out
Stokely.
to Ellen.
Yeah. I didn't have twins. Ellen had twins.
Shout out to Ellen.
I just happened to be at the hospital.
I know where
that
the bread
day.
is buttered.
So I grew up, and this was a portion of my life. It was a snapshot. I don't think that it really needed credits. It could have just said simply "to be continued."
I think so.
Yeah.
Do you think that getting into politics as a young, I mean, you've literally grown up in politics. Like, I do remember when you were the youngest elected official in the country.
Yeah.
And that comes with a lot of good stuff, but
Oh,
that
yeah.
also a lot of perks.
Symone,
But I
this is
think
being
that
streamed live.
But I mean, I think so. I mean, you've grown up in politics. And so I think you're not the person you were when you first entered the State House. You're definitely not the person you were when you first put your name on the ballot to run for lieutenant governor. And we don't know what you're going to do next.
Oh, well, I mean, I feel like I know what I'm going to do next.
What
but
you going to do next, Bakari?
There
Break a
you
little
go.
news.
No, I'm not breaking any news. I think everyone knows. No,
everybody doesn't know. That's why we have to tell them.
I'm going to tell them, Symone, but it's going to be a gradual progression. I'm going to do some build up.
Okay, build me.
Let me build it
Tell
up.
the story.
Let me build it up. No, I do remember those times when I was very young, and I do remember those times when I was the youngest, but I grew up as a child of the movement. Most people don't know, but in 1988, I was the Jesse Jackson campaign baby. Because my dad was the regional field director for Jesse in 84 and 88. My dad actually hired a young lady who now has very, very great purple hair named Donna Brazile, who we love and adore. Neither of us would be at CNN if it wasn't for Donna Brazile.
Shout out to Auntie
Yeah,
Donna.
no. And he hired her in 84, and whenever Uncle Jesse used to have pictures of a baby, he needed a baby, I was the baby that they used. And so I have always been around this, and so my next step in this progression, you see the build up. You
I
tell
saw
a
the build.
story.
Look,
build
I'm the
up.
press secretary.
There
I
you
know.
go. All right. So I know I've told everybody my dream since day one is to run for the United States Congress, and whether or not that's in 2020 or 2022 is something that
Y'all
I really.
can clap for that. It's okay.
Yeah. And we always that seat's held by Jim Clyburn, who I love and adore, who I work for, and so we'll see when that time is right, and that's one of the things that growing up in this has taught me. It's taught me the value of patience. And so we'll see when that time happens.
We'll see when the time happens. I know we want to take some crowd questions.
Yeah,
So I'll take a couple crowd questions. I'm taking questions, not soliloquies, ladies and gentlemen. We're taking questions, not. Questions, not. That's right. I teach a class on Mondays. I need you to talk back to me. There's a mic in the crowd. 2 mics in the crowd. So if you have a question, raise your hand.
And I'm only 34 years old, so I'm not old enough yet to lie to you. I'll tell you about anything you ask. So feel
Okay.
free.
Hi, I am Angel, Denmark, class of 93.
Oh, wow.
And that footage was pretty jarring, looking at those dilapidated buildings, and they look exactly the same.
Yes, ma'am.
One thing I've seen that I have in common with my classmates is that the day after graduation, we broke the hell out, and we never looked back. And now looking at that footage as an adult with a child of my own, I just wonder, like, maybe we messed up. Like, maybe we should have stayed connected. And I just wonder, like, what your advice is for me and my classmates about, I don't know, helping the next generation of students that are still there.
Well, there is a vacuum, and you have to stay connected to your home because those are the people who gave you so much. All of those people poured into you so that you could come to D.C. or Virginia or Maryland and do those great things. And so I will tell you, don't necessarily fret because there still is time. But you don't necessarily have to go back and move back to Denmark, South Carolina, because fine dining in Denmark is still Teuton's, right? And the Weebake owned by the Mennonites still opens up on Wednesdays through Saturdays. And so, you know, I would stress to you being an example, doing career days, which I'm actually going to do at Orangeburg Wilkinson, where I graduated from tomorrow. We're on the first flight out. We leave at 5:40 in the morning. I'm going to be there when school opens up at 8:30 doing a career day, all so that people can see you, right? And so, you know, being that example is probably the most important thing that you can do, even from afar. But going back and letting those young girls be able to see someone successful in whatever your profession is even more importantly. Bringing some of those young people along with you, teaching them how to care for themselves mentally and physically, how to care for their bodies. Some of them need a hug, you know, just those type things. Don't just run away from home and never come back, but come back when you're prepared to and come back when you're prepared to give back. And I think that time for you is probably right now.
Thank you. We have a question on this side? Yes. Sir.
Hey, good evening. My name is Gianni Clarkson, and after seeing this, I immediately saw how personal this is. This being, you know, just a following of your life. Are there moments when you watch this or when you still see this that they're like, I'm going to close my eyes during this part because this is a little bit too painful for me?
Yeah, all the time. This is the first time I watched it. So I watched it. Emily brought it to me, and I knew it was good because she flew down, and I was with my family in Kiowa Island on vacation. And she said, I'm coming down for the day to show you this film. And I was taken aback by it. And as everybody sees, I'm very emotional. Like, I don't know if y'all cried as much as I did during the documentary, but I cried a lot. Some of those you should have cried, or some you're emotionally stunned. But I do think that it was very, very open and honest. I don't really close my eyes because it's my truth. And so that's very real for me. Everything from the pain of the Orangeburg massacre. I tell people kind of perversely, I guess, that my life has been bookended by tragedy from 68 to 2015. And so that pain is something that envelops our culture as well. We've seen that to kind of draw to a current day thing. We've kind of seen how that cycle of pain in the Nipsey Hussle case, how that pain we just somewhat, I always say that anger is not a sin, but we manifest it in different ways. And so in our community, we do have a ton of hurt. And sometimes people use that hurt as a cycle to hurt others. But instead, I chose to use that pain for some good. And we'll see how that works out. But no, I don't close my eyes. You know, that's my truth.
I want to interject a question here because I think that there are also a lot of people, the title of this documentary, While I Breathe, I Hope. There are a lot of people, I think, that particularly in these political times struggle with the hope part.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, we had some very historic wins on the Democratic side of the aisle in 2018, but we also had some really hard losses. You talked about Andrews. We talked about how we have yet to crack the ceiling. And so what do you say to those people that are like, look now, you keep telling us to hope now, Bakari.
We said this on TV before. I'm sure I've heard you say it, but I know Nia's in here, and she's probably sat across on a panel and said it, and we've looked up, and when white folk are like, oh my God, I can't believe we're here. This is the worst thing ever. Donald Trump is president. Black folk are like, well, we've been here for a long time.
Welcome to the party.
Well, this ain't nothing really new for some of us. You know, my grandma has this saying. My grandmother would always say, you know how old people say stuff that you never understand? That doesn't make any sense until you get older. My grandmother would always say that you can't fall off the floor. That's some Southern stuff.
The seasoned contingent in here was like,
Yeah, y'all can write that down, but attribute that to Bakari's grandmother. Yeah, she would always say you can't fall off the floor, and I'm like, man, that don't make no sense. I mean, but when you think about it, it makes perfect sense now, because now black folk for so long in this country have felt like they've been on the floor, but now gay Americans for so long they feel like they're on the floor. They're on the floor with us now, and Hispanic Americans and Muslim Americans and Jewish Americans with the rise of anti-Semitism in this country. And so you just think about all of these people, but the challenge now is like, how do we get up together? And so when you think about that challenge, I do push people to say that you can't be selfish in your struggle. And this is where I allow you, not allow, but where you and Brittany, I didn't mean to say allow, that slipped out. Forgive me. But where you and
Times have changed.
where you and Brittany and Angela and everyone else take the lead, because you're quick to point out this fact of you can't be selfish in your struggle. And what that means is that you're not going to find a larger pro-choice women's rights advocate than Bakari Sellers. Like, I'm going to be there on the front lines with signs, pink shirts, everything, right? But when a black kid who looks like me is gunned down in the street, you know, I need to see all those college-educated white women who I was with in that rally. They got to be there with me. And that is, you know, that's the not being selfish in your struggle. This whole thing goes both ways type of thing that we're missing. And so I think once we realize that we're on the floor together, I think that we'll be able to kind of get up and not be selfish in that struggle.
Come on now, campaign theme. I caught that campaign
Yeah, I'm
thing.
working
We on the floor together.
I'm trying to few out.
This a
You never
focus
know
group,
you
little
never
do
know
y'all
when you
know.
need
What's the next question?
Hi, Donovan Hicks,
Oh,
South Carolina. Yeah, born and raised. You taught Bakari about there's so many people who have been systematically shut out in South Carolina, and they leave, right? They leave after college because they don't feel the hope, and they have never seen someone who looks like them or speaks anything to what they believe in office. And so there is a lot of hopelessness, especially among young folks like me who want to do something right, but just feel like the system is so strong. But there seems to be Democratic momentum in South Carolina. We did get a win with Joe Cunningham in Charleston, and we have some great people running now with this new election, and Joe Wilson, South Carolina too, the Democrat there. So can you talk a little bit about what that Democratic momentum looks like in South Carolina? And I'm sick of folks talking about Georgia and Alabama. I want to see South Carolina on some headlines. What can we do?
Well, Jamie just raised $231,000 in his
Jamie
race.
Harrison, he's running for
United States Senate. So, you know, if you feel so inclined as I did, he's gonna call us. Every friend of Jamie in here probably got a phone call today. If not, you'll get one tomorrow about donating. So please donate to his campaign as well. You know, I do have a little Lindsey Graham. There you go, Diane. I do have one piece of advice for you. I mean, if you want to change the political culture and climate and see how well Dems can do in South Carolina, you probably need to move back and run too. That would help us tremendously. But one of the things that I'm doing is I have a new nonprofit called the Opportunity Project, and the Opportunity Project is built to stand in the gap educationally. We give out grants to teachers so they don't have to pay for teacher supplies out of their pockets. We're working with Google on providing some technological advancements for some of these poor rural school districts. We're also doing health fairs and things. I don't know if y'all know this, but like they're 13-year-old kids who've never seen a dentist. Like that's real life. They're women who have not gotten mammograms, and they're 45, 50 years old. And so what we're trying to do is make sure we provide that access. But what we're also doing is taking a page from our friend Stacy's book, and we're going out and we're reactivating a lot of those dormant voters, a lot of those voters who have fallen off the voter rolls. And so we're going out and we're touching them, finding them, and we're registering new people to vote, doing things like registering high school seniors, Let America Vote, doing great work. And so we're doing those things, and we could use your help as well. That everybody has a role to play. And so I'm just trying to do my part. Charlie? The Charlie Cobb.
My name is Charlie Cobb. I'm an author and a veteran of the Southern movement of the 60s, good friend of his dad's.
Amen.
I've been struck by both the number and energy of young people not only seeking elected office, but as activists around a whole range of issues. And I'm assuming that will continue. And I'm assuming certainly some of the young people like yourself running for office will actually achieve office. The question that interests me is within the context of this political engagement or civic engagement, what's being built for the long term? What are your ideas about what should be built for the long term, particularly when it comes to holding elected officials accountable?
So that's twofold, and I want to start with the second part first. I firmly believe that we cannot hold conservative Republicans accountable until we hold individuals who look like us accountable. And what that means is holding those congressmen and representatives who are supposed to have our best interests at heart, making sure that they're doing the things that they're saying that they want to do. But I put that in a larger context because for me, I can put a tag phrase on what I want the world to look like. And that is I simply want our people to be free, right? But I can back that out and tell you what that means very tangibly and politically. That means I want free and fair elections, okay? Because we know that Stacey Abrams, one thing that she did not get was a free and fair election. We know that voter ID and the efforts to curb absentee ballots are poll taxes and things that date back to the days when you were fighting Lester Maddox and Bull Connor, right? I want people to be free from environmental injustices because we have Flint, Michigan, the city of Denmark that you just saw where we're from. We have a higher lead concentration in our water than Flint, Michigan. You know, I want people to be free to attain the level of education that they want to attain because it's very hard for a child to compete in a 21st century global economy when they're going to school in schools that are still falling apart. But then if they want to go to an HBCU, we're still having to fight to make sure that our HBCUs are healthy and thriving. Not just Bennett College and not just Allen, but just yesterday, I was at a rally for Denmark Technical College to save Denmark Technical College from closing down. And so that, to me, is also freedom. But then it's also freedom using what Tim Scott has put forth in opportunity zones, but allowing our people to be able to attain some level or some semblance of what the middle class actually tastes like. And so for me, I always say that those should be our long-term policy goals, but it's centered on the initiative of freedom. And then last but not least, we also know that our criminal justice system is inherently broken and mangled. And so doing something to make sure that we not only talk about people before they get in the system, but how we treat them in the system, and then how we ban the box and do other things when they get out the system is a holistic approach to making sure. But I feel like if we're able to do those things and we put forth a very tangible freedom agenda, then we can have some successes similar to the ones that you all had with the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act of 64 and 65. But even more importantly, I don't think many people in this room actually know that when Stokely was chanting Black Power in Greenwood, Mississippi, he wasn't necessarily talking about some radical militant ideology, but instead he was talking about black people having economic freedom and power. He was talking about black people having that political power within their own communities. And so that type of, dare I say, black power, for me has kind of transcended and is now what I call freedom. And so that's what I hope is our future.
We have time. We got time for one more. We have time for one more question. Ooh, I also always tell my students you always have a question.
Where are you teaching at?
USC.
South Carolina?
No, in LA. Well, I got a question, Bakari.
All right.
Yes, I'm a professor. So you're very clear that you are going to see Kyer office again. In the midst of, before doing that, you are also building infrastructure in your community, in your state, to help other folks to connect the dots. What do you say though? And I think this is a larger blueprint for other folks, where it seems to me like folks like yourself, folks like Stacey Abrams, folks like Andrew Gillum are laser focused in doing the work that will be that infrastructure that will be lasting, that longevity piece. But there's some other people in the Democratic Party Big Tent that have not invested in that type of work. And so how do we get folks to invest in that type of work? Everybody want for president, but it seems to me that some people need to be building some infrastructure.
Listen, I one of the things that I learned from I keep going back to those SNCC individuals and Charlie Cobb and those guys, is that if you go down south right now, like south, like the real south, like below Richmond, like people in Arlington talking about I'm from the south. No, you're not. You're not. You're not from the south either, Don. Missouri ain't the south either, Don. So
not where you from in Missouri, sure not.
But I always tell people you can count 10 black folk in the South that are above the age of 60. And all 10 of those black folk will tell you how they marched with King and what they did in the movement. Mm-hmm. When in all honesty, less than one of them was actually there. Mm-hmm. What that tells you, though, is that there ain't going to be a whole lot of people that are doing the work necessary to change the world. And you have to be comfortable knowing that sometimes leadership means that you're alone. And when you know that, it gives you some solace in your solitude. I read Condoleezza Rice's autobiography, which is a really, really good autobiography. She grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. And her parents, guess who they did not like? Martin Luther King Jr. They didn't want him to come down and be a part of nothing going on in Birmingham, Alabama. He was a rebel rouser. They didn't want any parts of that. I mean, there was a Pastor Jackson in Chicago literally changed the front entrance of his church so that the address would no longer be Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, right? And so you have to understand that everybody ain't going to be with you. But what we can do is be examples. And like I told her, the greatest example that I've ever seen in my life, and I will end on this note, so I can go do some Don Lemon and have real BET moments with my brother Don.
Tell him I said hi.
I will. The greatest thing I've ever seen in my life, example, is a young man named Jacob Philadelphia. How many of y'all have ever seen Jacob? Know who Jacob is? All right, so Jacob Philadelphia was 4 years old. His parents worked in the administration. He had an awesome opportunity when he was 4 years old to go in as his parents left the administration of 44 to meet 44. And Jacob was what we call in the South casket sharp. I don't know if y'all know what that means, but casket sharp that's the best you're gonna look, right? That on that day when you in the casket is the absolute best that you should look. And so casket sharp, he had on a white shirt and some slacks. And Jacob was able to ask the leader of the free world one question. And Jacob leaned up, of course, and asked Barack Obama. He said, "Does your hair feel like mine?" And 44 leaned over, and Jacob leaned up and touched his head. And Pete Souza, who's the shade god, who I love, took this great picture. And that probably is the second best image to come out of the Obama White House. The first is, of course, when they're in the Situation Room and Osama bin Laden. But this is the second. And the reason it's so powerful is because it literally showed that young brown people with kinky hair, like Barack Hussein Obama, could also be leader of the free world. And so that's why this film is important. That's why the work that we do is important. That's why you all being here is important. That's why I say thank you for showing up, because we can all be examples. And being those examples can transform the world.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Give
both.
it up for Bakari Sellers, y'all. We're very proud of you.
Wait.
Let us know when you're running.
Hold on, Bakari. Bakari, one more question. Sorry, one more question.
Oh, of course.
Hi,
Okay,
Symone.
wait now.
Hi, Bakari. Don Calloway, National Voter Protection Action Fund. Some things have changed in your life since the movie. So, how them babies?
The babies are good. Keep us in your prayers. The babies are good. It's one day at a time with us. But my daughter's name is Sadie. Sadie was Benjamin E. Mays' wife in Stokely, of course, after Stokely Carmichael. So they'll be fine, and they have a lot to live up to. So thank you in advance for prayers for them and for me, because all I know about babies right now is do not drop them. And I'm trying to learn the rest as I go. So thank you so much.
Give it up for Bakari Sellers, ladies and gentlemen.